Are you struggling to get your custom Visual Studio Run configuration to work with Docker? You're not alone. Today, we're diving into a common issue that many developers face when setting up .NET Core projects with Docker in Visual Studio 2017. I totally get how frustrating it can be when you've set everything up, but it just won't run the way you want it to. You might feel like you're stuck in a loop of configurations that just don't seem to work. Trust me, this is a common hurdle for many developers. Let's take a closer look at the specific situation. One user reached out saying they created a .NET Core project with Docker in Visual Studio 2017. They added Docker Compose to the solution, but when trying to run their custom configuration named pre-production, it defaults to release. Does this sound familiar? Let's explore this together. So what's happening here? It seems like Visual Studio is not recognizing the custom Docker Compose file you've created. Instead, it's defaulting to the release configuration. This can happen due to a few common misconfigurations, but don't worry, we'll walk through the troubleshooting steps. And stick around. At the end of this video, I'll share a quick tip that can help you avoid this issue in the future. To begin resolving this issue, the user should ensure that the custom configuration is properly set up in Visual Studio. First, they need to open the Solution Configuration Manager. Next, the user should verify that the custom Docker Compose file is correctly referenced in the project settings. This is crucial for ensuring that the right configuration is used during the build process. Now, the user needs to check the Docker Compose override files. They should confirm that the custom configuration file is included and that it does not default to the release configuration. Finally, the user should rebuild the solution and run the pre-production configuration. This will help confirm that the changes have taken effect and that the correct Docker Compose file is being used. Fun fact, did you know that Docker was originally developed to help developers manage their applications in a more efficient way? It's come a long way since then, but sometimes it can still be a bit tricky to configure. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. This user explains that unfortunately, it's not possible to use custom configurations for Docker in Visual Studio. They discovered that the file names for Docker configurations are hard-coded, meaning anything other than debug defaults to release. They suggest a workaround by using different Docker Compose.yml files from separate folders. However, since this is a Docker project, you can't access post-build events to copy files, and multiple Docker files aren't allowed due to naming conventions. As a final suggestion, they recommend developing and testing with one version and creating a script to manually build everything based on your existing Compose files. Let's check out another perspective from a different user. One user offers a non-standard solution to the Docker configuration issue. First, they suggest downloading the dnspy tool from GitHub. After installing it, locate the Microsoft docker.dll file in your Visual Studio installation directory. Copy this file to another directory and open it with dnspy. Navigate to the Docker Compose client class and find the Get Documents method. Here, you can edit the file paths used for the build. For example, change dockercompose.override.yml to dockercompose.development.yml. Save your changes, restart Visual Studio, and possibly Docker to apply the updates. Here's that quick tip I promised. Always keep your Docker Compose files organized and clearly named. This can save you a lot of headaches down the road when you're managing multiple configurations. And there you have it. With these steps, you should be able to get your custom Visual Studio Run configuration working with Docker. Remember, troubleshooting is part of the development process. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and tricks.